One picture, that's all it took. One single image of you, unbothered, cold-eyed, almost smiling, and the whole carefully constructed lie they believed about you started cracking at the edges. Huh? You didn't post a manifesto. You didn't send a warning. You didn't say a single word to anyone who wronged you. You just let one image slip through. They're zooming in on that photo like forensic investigators trying to find a piece of evidence that explains why you look like that, why your eyes don't hold the damage they were sure they left behind, why your posture doesn't carry the weight of someone who should be broken, why you look like someone who was never playing to win their game. Someone who was playing an entirely different game altogether. They needed you shattered, and instead you look like a loaded gun. Here's the thing they're choking on right now. The thing they can't say out loud, because saying it would confirm their worst nightmare. That photo isn't just a photo. It's evidence. It's a confession from you that required 0 words. It's the visual proof that everything they thought they knew about you, every label they gave you, every story they told about you, every narrative they built to, and you wrote the real story alone, in the dark, while they thought you were finished. Here's what I need you to understand before we go any further. What just happened to them isn't shock, it's recognition. They're not reacting to a photo of you looking good. They're reacting to the realization that you were never who they thought you were. That the version of you they attacked, the version they thought they could control, the version they believed would fold under pressure, that was a character. A role you played while the real you was somewhere else entirely. Building, watching, waiting. And that's what the picture revealed. Let's talk about what you actually are. Because most people in your life have been reacting to a projection this whole time, and not the source. What they knew of you was a performance, not a deception. Not a manipulation, but a survival mechanism so sophisticated that even you forgot you were too quiet in the wrong moments, too unbothered in situations where people expected you to collapse. So you built a character, someone softer, more readable, more predictable, someone who fit inside the frame they needed you to occupy. You showed up and played the role they cast you in. You gave them the version of you that didn't threaten them. You laughed at the right moments. You expressed concern on cue. You performed enough vulnerability to make them feel safe around you. And it worked beautifully. For years it worked. Because people don't question what they're comfortable with. And you made them deeply, deeply comfortable. But here's the fracture point. They never accounted for. Characters don't survive indefinitely. At some point, the mask shifts. It wasn't a dramatic unmasking. There was no speech, no confrontation, no big reveal moment in a crowded room. It was something smaller and far more devastating. A single photo where the character wasn't present, where you forgot to perform, or more precisely, where you stopped caring enough to try. And in that image, behind your eyes, everything, they saw something that rewrote every memory they had of you. They saw the architect, not the building. Think about what you've actually been carrying this whole time, because it's heavier than most people could hold. The knowledge of how people operate, The ability to read a room, a relationship, a situation, with a precision that most people don't even know is possible. The constant awareness of the gap between what people say and what they mean, what they show and what they feel, who they perform as and who they are at 3 in the morning. You've been fluent in a language nobody taught you, the language underneath language, and that fluency is what you've been hiding. They thought your stillness was passivity. They thought your silence was emptiness. They thought your controlled smile was just politeness. What it actually was, observation, calculation without malice, the deep, and they had absolutely no idea. That's the part that's going to haunt them. Here's what's psychologically devastating about that picture, and why they can't stop looking at it no matter how much it unsettles them. It proves that you had access to your real self the entire time you were around them. That this version of you, clear-eyed, rooted, dangerously present, existed parallel to the character you showed them. That means every moment they thought they understood you, there was a second layer they couldn't see. Every conversation had a subtext they were never equipped to read. Every time they thought they had leverage over you, they were holding a prop from a play, while the real thing was somewhere else entirely. Now let's be precise about what happened, because they deserve to face this with the lights on and no softening. Saphiram, they didn't betray you. They betrayed the character, and they thought that was enough to erase you. They twisted the knife in a version of you that wasn't even the real target. They spread their stories, their rewrites, their carefully distributed poison, all aimed at an avatar. And because they never actually knew you, they thought they'd done the damage. They thought the mission was complete. They made their calculations based on false data. They assessed your psychology using a profile you built for them, designed to be readable, designed to be predictable, designed to make them underestimate the actual depth underneath. They looked at the character and saw something they could break. They saw someone whose identity was built on their approval, their validation, their perception of who you were. They thought pulling that approval would cause structural collapse. They thought exposing the character would expose you. They went after your reputation, in rooms you weren't in conversations you weren't part of, with people you hadn't even met yet. They poured their interpretation of you into every available ear and called it truth. They distorted your history, reframed your motivations, took your actual words, and surgically removed the context until what remained looked like something you'd never said. They made sure the story of you circulated before you could show up as yourself. And beyond the reputations, they attacked your sense of reality. That's the specific weapon they deployed when the external assault wasn't landing hard enough. They made you second-guess your perceptions, made you wonder if the pattern you were detecting was paranoia, made you question whether what you felt you were experiencing was accurate, or whether you were the problem. Gaslighting is the cruelest weapon precisely because it turns the victim's intelligence against them. The sharper your awareness, the more material there is to doubt, and for a period, a dark and specific period, you know exactly when it was. It worked. There were weeks, maybe months, where you couldn't tell the difference between your intuition and their programming, where your own mind felt unreliable. where you went back and forth between knowing what was happening and accepting their version of events because the alternative, trusting yourself completely against their coordinated assault, required a kind of internal certainty that they'd been systematically dismantling. And in that fog, they declared victory. They told themselves they'd cracked you, that the story was over, that you were too far down to climb back out. They started living as if your disappearance was permanent, and then you didn't disappear. And then the fog cleared, and then the picture happened. Not performatively, not desperately, like someone who won so completely that the game itself feels distant. That's not something you can fake. That's not something you learn. That's what happens when you shed a character that was never your real size. Let's decode what that image actually contains, because it's more information dense than they realize, and they'll be unpacking it for years. In that photo, you are not performing recovery. You're not performing strength. You're not performing anything at all. And that's what they've never seen you when you simply exist without managing their perception of you. What they're seeing for the first time is the actual size of you, and it doesn't match the container they had you in. Your eyes in that image carry something they don't have a vocabulary for because they've spent so long cataloging your wounds that they never considered your actual nature. There's a quality in a person's gaze when they've processed something completely, not buried it, not bypassed it, but actually consumed it, metabolized it, turned it into information instead of injury. And that quality looks almost inhuman to people who are still mid-process. It looks like distance. It looks like coldness. It looks like someone standing outside of something they should be inside of. Isolation built you. You can't be manipulated with the promise of belonging when what it actually is, arrival. The look of someone who completed a transformation no one witnessed and emerged somewhere the map doesn't cover. Think about what you know now that you didn't know before any of this happened. Before the betrayal, you know exactly what people look like when they're deciding to hurt you while smiling at you. You have that image memorized, burned into pattern recognition that will never fail you again. You know what loyalty actually feels like because you know with devastating precision what it feels not like. You know which relationships were real because you know exactly how the fake ones operated. You know your own floor, the absolute depth of what you can survive, and knowing that makes people accept conditions they know are wrong just to avoid being without company. You were forced into solitude. You were stripped of the relationships and the validations and the social structures that people use to feel safe. And you had to either collapse in it or build something inside it. And what you built inside that solitude is the architecture that shows in the photo. They tried to take everything from you and accidentally gave you the one thing that makes you permanently ungovernable. The knowledge that you are enough on your own. That is not a small thing. That is not a motivational line to write on a mirror. That is the specific psychological condition that makes a person functionally immune to the primary methods of control that most people are subject to. You can't be threatened with abandonment by people you've already survived leaving. You can't be controlled by the fear of isolation when you've already found a way to belong to yourself. Let's be specific about the exact crisis happening on their end right now. because you deserve to see this clearly and without pity. They're in damage reassessment mode. They're going back through every interaction, every conversation, every moment they thought they understood you, and reevaluating it through the lens of what the photo revealed. They're asking themselves how much you saw that you never reacted to, how much you knew that you never said, how many moments they thought they had the upper hand where you were simply watching. Because here's what the review reveals. If you were performing the whole time, then nothing they thought they had on you was real. Every perceived weakness they cataloged, it was offered. Every moment you seemed uncertain, it was managed. Every time you seemed to need them, you were choosing to include them, not depending on them. The power dynamic they thought they understood was an inversion of the actual power dynamic. And now they have to sit with what that means about every interaction they had with you. That's a specific kind of vertigo. The retrospective realization that they're also dealing with something perhaps more uncomfortable than embarrassment. And that's the creeping recognition that they never actually knew who they were targeting. You can't claim to have beaten someone you misidentified. You can't claim victory over an enemy you never actually encountered. They declared war on a character, and the character is gone now. And somewhere behind where it used to stand as an entity they have absolutely no intelligence on. No profile, no weaknesses they can reliably exploit. No emotional levers, no history of how you break. The question of what you saw, what you know, what you were taking in during all those moments they thought they had the advantage. Because a person who is genuinely performing, genuinely operating from behind a constructed persona, is watching everything in a way that a person simply being themselves never would. They walked in front of you thinking you were looking at them at face value, and you were reading the room behind their words. Now let's talk about what happens next, because this is the part of the story that most people watching this are standing right at the edge of. They want to know, do you reveal yourself? Do you let the mask fall completely? Here's the answer that the photo already gave them. The answer that lives in your eyes, in that image, and doesn't require a single word from you. You've already moved. The confrontation happened internally. The trial concluded without them present. The verdict was reached in a room they weren't allowed into. There's a specific kind of power in a person who has processed their enemies and not forgiveness. That's not what this is. Not indifference. That's too passive for what's actually happening here. Something colder and more specific than either. The power of someone who has extracted every piece of value from a painful experience and left the wreckage behind. That you're still processing, that you still need something from them. Even if that something is just their defeat, don't give them the confirmation. Not because you're suppressing it, but because you've genuinely moved beyond the register they're still operating in. The photo showed them something they can't unsee. You at a frequency they can't reach, operating at a level that their attacks couldn't touch, living in a reality where that's the ultimate silent statement. That's the message that lands hardest and leaves no room for rebuttal. Your existence as you actually are, your forward momentum, your clarity, your assembled. The character they knew was a fraction of you, offered selectively, managed carefully. But this The thing in the photo, the thing they're zooming in on, trying to decode, this was always present, always running underneath, always the real architecture. The betrayal didn't build this. It stripped away the relationships and the structures and the social dependencies that made concealment feel necessary. And when all of that was gone, what remained was the thing they should have been afraid of the entire time. So now you're at the pivot point. And I need you to hear this with everything you have, because this is the part most people miss. The character was never a weakness. It was not a failure of authenticity. It was not a sign that you were ashamed of who you are. It was strategy. It was adaptation. It was the intelligent behavior, but the environment changed. The reasons for the character dissolved. And what you're being invited to do now is not to replace the old character with a new performance, but to stop performing altogether. Let me be precise about what that looks like. Smaller than you are. No more occupying the frame they built for you. No more apologizing for the depth of your perception. No more dimming the very qualities that kept you alive when they were trying to end you. The character served you. Now release it, and let what's underneath it move without apology. The people who were frightened by the photo, they are showing you something important. They are showing you that your actual self, unmanaged and uncurated, is powerful enough to destabilize people without doing it. That gap is your territory now. That's the space between who they thought you were and who you actually are. And it's vast, and it's yours, and they cannot follow you into it because they never got the map. Here's what I need you to take away from everything said here. The single thing that matters more than any other. You didn't survive their attacks. You were never in the fight they thought they were winning. You were not playing defense while they played offense. You were in a different game entirely. A slower, you are the original. The thing they caught a glimpse of and couldn't explain. The entity that was operating at full capacity the entire time they thought they were watching a wounded animal. Let that land. Let it move through you. Let it replace every false version of yourself you've been tolerating, because the picture already told them. Now you just have to live what it said. You don't owe anyone an explanation for the you don't owe anyone a gentle transition. You don't have to ease anyone into the real you to protect their comfort. You don't have to dim the clarity in your eyes, because it makes people who've spent years misreading you suddenly feel exposed. What's left doesn't wait for permission. What's left just moves. Cold, clear, assembled, and absolutely, permanently, undeniably itself. One picture, that's all it took. One single image where you forgot to hide what you actually are, and they'll spend the next years trying to make sense of it. You'll be somewhere else entirely. Somewhere they don't have coordinates for. Somewhere the character you built for their benefit never had to go. You already know what you are. The only question left